Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the I Am, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Psalms chapter 1 and verses 1 through 3. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Oshay chapter 1 and verse 8. Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We thank God for you, and we're in the law. Yes, we're in the law. All praises to the I Am, that we are in the law. For this is the measure of holiness. This is the measure of righteousness for the children of Israel. Yes, by which we shall be judged not only in this life, but the life to come. And we thank God for you, you, and you. Yes, we thank God for you, you, and you. Those of you that have been with us since the beginning, those of you that have been with us here and there's about, and those of you that have just subscribed, and those of you who are about to subscribe, or you're just sitting in trying to incognito figure out what are we talking about. Yes, I'm Mr. Clay. Now, we're in the book of Leviticus as you prepare. The book of Leviticus. See, the world and Christianity will tell you you can't keep the law. They did not keep the law. But even as Abraham and what he had observed in the beginning was that he said he noticed how spirits had sway over the thoughts of men's hearts. Jubilees chapter 12 and verse 20. He says they have sway over that. He destroyed the idols because he knew that idols was not nothing. He knew these things were what men dreamed up and what he envisioned to be God, because he had no time ever seen God. The only one that ever seen God that lived was Adam. He heard the voice of God and God spoke to him. Doesn't say it, but that's the only one that ever seen him, because God was in the garden. The garden was pure. The garden was holy. He had to get them out of the garden because they were unholy. Yes, he did. And you have to excuse the noise that you hear in the background, dog barking or somebody piddling around or talking. That's just the neighbors. Thank you. But anyway, now, we're in Leviticus, the book of Leviticus, chapter 19. Yes, we're in Leviticus chapter 19, and we're in the part of keeping, or chapter 18. It's just different various laws that God had put out. I made it upon myself not only that I would cut and paste them, but I've even started began to write them down. For some reason, writing things down helped my remembering. Even though you can cut and paste or whatever, just writing it down. A little book I purchased and just started writing the laws down. Just the laws, whether it's sacrificial or whether it's an ordinance or a commandment. Just writing the laws down, because we have to help our remembrance. Even though we may not be able to quote all of the laws, but we'll know where they're at, and we know what that law is. Or if somebody tell us what the law is, we know whether it's true or not, because these things have been embedded in our hearts. Yes. Now, He says now in verse 18, thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am that I am. They put Lord up there, but that's what the heathen do. God have already put it there for us, and we will recognize it if we do have God's guidance. Now it says that thou shalt not avenge. He said the children of Judah, the children of Israel, those who keep the law, those who are noted to be of Israel, your brethren, thou shalt not avenge. God's going to do this, or an avenger will go after them. Nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people. Now you have this going into the New Testament. This is why I say the New Testament is null and void. They go and they took the same scripture and it says, turn the other cheek. But he says, but he doesn't tell you of your own people. See, this is how they tricked you in the New Testament. They couldn't really mess with the old much, but the new they could really manipulate it big time, or dream it up, or however. I do not subscribe. I cut the New Testament out of all my Bibles. Now, he said, thou shalt not avenge. Your brother does something to you, don't avenge it. You tell him his problem. You have to defend yourself, but he says go back and get vengeance. He didn't say not to defend yourself. No, there's two different things. He says, no, bear any grudge because of what your brother did. Don't bear any grudge. Now, there are some stipulations to this. Now, if he murdered, yes. If he's anything that has to do with murder or under murder or adultery, you don't have to bitch. You take him to the law or the people and accuse him before the law, and him and your wife or husband will be deleted by stoning, by firing squad. This is in the land of Israel. The Israel you see now are not keeping this law. They are keeping some kind of law, but it's not this law. If you were to keep this law, many countries, you would have a lawless society. You will have a lawful society. Yes. And the heathen around you will condemn you for the righteousness that is done and the justice that is taken, because they cannot keep justice in no place in this whole wide world. Justice is not wrought. Number one, justice, they're not even, if someone even robs you, they go to jail, but the money doesn't become, it's not given to you. They will work it while they're in jail or prison, but the money doesn't come back to you. They will not work off that money. Even God says, if you sell a man, or he's in prison or indentured for what he's done, this is what it's about. People call it slavery. No, it's not slavery. Indentured. Now, if you set someone up to where you say they indentured, then it's slavery. But the fact is that a thief will be indentured because he has to pay double or triple what he owes, and that money should go to the one he has offended, and then whatever else that costs that person, they're going to make anyway. And that is only after what? Hard labor. See, the heathen can't even keep the biblical law. They try, but they do it their way. They do it whatever seems right to them, and that is the way of death, according to the books, the holy books. Now, the New Testament is not a holy book. It sounds holy, it looks holy, but it's not holy. Now, it says he says, no bear any grudge, don't hate them. No. We have to be more objective than that. Against the children, that's my brother, that's my sister. Okay, I can't hate you for this. You did something, but thou shalt love. How do you love? According to the law. See, this is the Greek word. Or you would say, thou shalt treat your neighbor as yourself. I am that I am. Treat your neighbor as yourself. Love is the law, and the law is love. Now, this is a word that the Greeks put out, love. So we would take that and say, treat your neighbor as yourself. I don't go by the definitions of things. I go by how I but how I see things are culminating and what God would mean in my language. So I would treat a neighbor as myself, but this renders it love. Love can mean many things. It depends on the perception of the person. But in the context of this, love is the law. So you should love your neighbor as yourself, even as the law loves you. And the lawgiver, he has pushed forth love. What is a measure of love? And that is the law. This is why it's so important to learn the law. Everything that's in it, even to the, should I say, the sacrifices, to learn the feast days, to learn what is required of me, God, what is required of me, I am that I am, what is required of me. This is what we have to do. Now he says, you shall keep my statutes, thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with a diverse kind. Now I won't get into this, although this is about cattle. In other words, he's saying you shall not mix cattle to create another cattle. This is evil before the Most High. In other words, it's just like mixing seed, one nation with another. Doesn't have to just be white, it just depends. But now we have been so mixed up and so confused in who we are, we cannot even marry or gender with our women or the woman with the man of their own nations, because we're mixed up, we're confused, we don't know who we are. He said, thou shalt not sow thy field with mingled seed. This is about mingling, mixing seed, coming up with different. You can mingle seed, and the seed can some kind of way make something else. It's just like you have the chicken. Two unclean birds made the chicken. And now the chicken, because it bears more seed than the birds that were mingled, or the seed that was mingled of the birds, now the chicken can lay many eggs in a year, and then it's still used for food. And this comes through the Asian persuasion. Now, it says, neither shall a garment mingle of linen and woolen come upon thee. Mingling, again, woolen. This is literal, yet it is symbolic. Now, you can get into the symbolic thing to justify yourself, which most other religions or denominations of the biblical context do. But it's still sin, because you went against what God had told you. Now the whole world we wear mingled clothes. What I have on is mingled clothes. It's cotton and whatever. They caused us to sin. Didn't know. But I've started trying to buy linen clothing, and clothing made of one material only. I don't know whether this is made with one material that I have on. I don't know. I have to check. But either way, polyester blend and all these other things. No, God tells his people, in order to do this, you are going to not buy mingled stuff. It's going to be cotton. Let it be 100% cotton. Linen is 100% cotton. It's a thinner blend of cotton. It's a thinner made cotton. Linen, you can wear polyester if you want to, as long as it's straight polyester. But you wearing plastic is just like wearing a wig. It gets in your skin. Polyester, nylon, all these things. This is what they make wigs out of too. And we wonder why we have cancers and all of this, because of these blends, because of these other things that we wear. We have to be careful. 100%, if we can get to cotton and those that's not made with chemicals and cancerous, yes, we will be good. We will be very much good. And this is mingling seed. mingling things, mixing stuff. God don't want you to mix. It's not racist for an all-white town to be all white and only marry white. It's not racist. It's not unholy. It's not unholy for just all black people to marry all black people, but still, you're still mingling because you don't know the nationality of that person. You don't know the tribal affiliation of that person. God don't want mingling. For right now, all we can do is say, well, you're black, so, oh well. I don't know who I am either. You could be of African descent. You could be pure Australian. You could be a United States Aboriginal or American Aboriginal, as they put it, or Turtle Island Aboriginal. You could be that. But God says mingling. That's the whole concept, mingling. Right now, only thing we can context ourselves with is color, because the Satans make sure that we don't know who we are. And then if we do, we mingle anyway. So he talks about mingling. This is not, it's a spiritual aspect, the Word of God. You do not mix the Word of God with idolatry. See, this is another thing. You mix, just like the New Testament, that is a great ordeal. Mixing a man with God. Idols, crosses, beads, mixing. You're mixing it with what's not there. That is not in the law. God is one God. The I am is one I am. Everything else beside him is created. There is none beside him that counsels him or tells him anything. He does not beget. He created and commanded it that it should reproduce after its kind. And that's where the mixing comes in at too. So this is where he's going. See, a lot of folks are not looking at it. This is what he's hoping that mankind would understand, mixing. He says, now, here we go again, verse 20. And whosoever lieth carnally with a woman that is a bondmaid, betrothed to an husband, engaged. If you have sex with a woman that is a bondmaid, a servant, betrothed to a husband, they did that back in, as far as we know, the slavery days. The master of the house would lay with a woman regardless, and she was pregnant or engaged or married to her husband so that he would not have seed with her. And all that redeemed from freedom, all redeemed. No, you're not gonna lie with that is a bondmaid, nor freedom given her. She shall be scourged, and they shall not be put to death, because she was not free. This is a woman that was indentured because maybe of debt or something she did that caused her to be sold to serve someone. And God says here, a bondmaid, she was betrothed, but yet she did something that caused her to be indentured to servitude. He says, no, whosoever lie with her, she shall be scourged. Not that he raped her. That would be a whole different situation. If she consented, is what he's saying. If she consented, she shall be scourged, and they shall not be put to death, even though she was the wife of another man or betrothed of another man. If you're engaged, it's the same as marriage. Period. See, the heathen in Christianity have caused this thing to be wholly different, because she was not free, not yet, to be with her husband, or both of them are indentured. And he shall bring his trespass offering unto the I am, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, even a ram for a trespass offering. You have just trespassed against the I am. The only thing that saved you is the fact that you had bought her debt, or whatever she owed society or the person that she has wronged. That's it. Know the laws. Understand. Try to understand the laws. And he shall bring forth his trespass offering unto the I am, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, even a ram. Now he says, now, then the priest could make an atonement for him. See, God already sees his heart. This is what God, people say God is omnipresent. Yes, he sees everything. God knows everything. No, not necessarily so. God knows the kind of heart a person has. This is how God can tell. If you read, you keep reading, you can understand and know God. He gives his angels tasks. He should I say, how do you do authority? He gives them authority over different things. He delegates authority. And how does angels go back reporting to God? How do they keep of what's happening to the children of men? How do they record? There's not just one angel. There are myriads of angels or messengers or reporters or spirits of God or the I am. They go back reporting. God doesn't forget. He sees and he knows. But he doesn't know the future as we think he knows. He knows eternity. What is? This is God. God is in this realm. What is present. He is in the present. Although he understands and knows the past, but he knows. The Bible says he tries. He knows your heart. He knows your perceptions. He knows what you've been subject to. Therefore, he can tell what you're going to do next. Are not you given the same ability to understand a person according to their heart, their perceptions? No matter what they're telling them, you can see a child is known by his doing. This is what we're saying. Now, we're talking about Israel going into the land. Okay. And he talks about in verse 26, we're going to skip to that. You shall not eat anything with blood, neither shall you use enchantment nor observe times. In other words, you've seen where two preachers have cut their fingers and poured it in a cup with blood, and they drank each other's blood. This is an abomination unto the Most High. But they have somehow added to the word because they felt they were above the law. These things they shall be judged of. They're there to tempt you, Christian. To take your money. That's what they're there for. They're vessels of dishonor. They are there to take your money and try you to see whether you turn to the law or no. Now, you shall not eat anything with blood, neither shall you use enchantment, juju, witchcraft, all kind of warlocks or witchcraft or witches, enchantments, chanting things for evil. Evil is wishing that which is contrary to your neighbor. In other words, you want something to happen to them, or you might want a husband and you use enchantment of your blood, you use an enchantment of your spit, you use enchantment of different things, and you do that. And observe time, horoscopes. This is what we're talking about. Observing the stars to understand your future. The Bible tells you what your future is. In other words, if you be willing and obedient, and obedient, you will inherit, or you shall eat of the good of the land. Yes. And ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of your beard. What he's talking about is what they did. They chopped it off. Mar means to. A fade would not be a marring. I wouldn't think so. Before it would be how, if you look at the Egyptians' hieroglyphs, you find out their hair was chopped. If you have a dreads, God doesn't want you to have them long. In other scriptures, we'll get to those scriptures eventually, in Ezekiel and all that, your dreads or your locks, not so long. You can look at the hieroglyphs of Egyptians, just like the Egyptians did. they had the locks, but their locks was cut off about halfway of their head, and the rest of it was shaven. This is what he means by marring. And then you shall not shave off your beard, is what he's saying. Corners, that's the openings right here. In other words, you're not going to cut it off. These are the openings of a beard. This is what he means. This is what the Old English is saying. Corners, these are the corners. Anything that, where it stops. See, this is the way they put it as far as the Old English will confuse you. It's confusing. But basically he's saying don't make bald the size of your head. And don't cut off your beards. You know, these little skinny things you have on your beards. To trim it up, I wouldn't think so, but many of you mar the corners of your beards by trying to get little styles that you see of the heathen. This is what he's doing, that you may make a difference between clean and unclean, holy and unholy. What is acceptable unto the Most High? This is acceptable unto the Most High. I mean, you trim it up, you give it a good trim, you know, where you want the corners to be like a line and all that. You not all this skinny stuff and all that. Your beard is your beard, period. And you shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead. And some, as you see, some tribes, even some American tribes, they do this, make cuttings in their flesh. Yes, whether they do it for the dead, I don't know. They make cuttings in their flesh. Now look, he says, cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor prints. He's talking about with ink, whether he uses ink. They're talking about tattoos. Let's put it right. Print any marks upon you. These are pagan. These are idolatries. I am that I am. Do not prostitute thy daughter. This is an English word. In other words, do not make your daughter go out and lay with other men for money. This is happening in poor countries because they do not trust the Most High. And even countries like here in the U.S., some women have decided they will prostitute their daughters unto their boyfriends and so they can keep them. This is not strange. And they know things are happening between their daughters and the man that is living in their house, but say nothing. It's the same thing, I would think. But to cause her to be a whore. Yes. What is a whore? A whore is one that is not betrothed. In other words, sex is marriage. But when marriage is not in view, neither betrothal, and a man and a woman lay together, it becomes whoredom. And a man that seeks out such a one, not even with the intention of marriage to lay with many women or any woman, is a whoremonger. Yes. Also known as 304. So you say your whore phase. So you take out the H and you take out the you reverse it. Hoe, H-O-E. So you take out the W and the R and you call it a hoe. This is where you get this from. In other words, when you give your body other than betrothal, marriage, sex is the consummation of marriage. It bonds the marriage. It's not the ring, it's the sex. And when you do it other than that, you are a whore or you're a whoremonger. And it is worthy of death before the Most High. Yes. They confuse you with the wording here again. Lest the land fall into whoredom. In other words, just like the world you see today, it's not even in my own mind when I was thinking as a Christian. Nobody explained this to me the way I understand it now. But they sit up there and they say a different thing. The world is in whoredom. Whoredom is like having many gods and never you call yourself serving God, but you never betroth yourself to God and keeping your body that for the Most High. But yet you go with many things. You go with transcendental meditation and all kind of things. These things are spiritual, yet they are natural. No man wants a woman that have had many gods or many men. And no woman wants a man that had many women that are with him and not betrothed. Not a faithful man. He's not going to take care of all those. He's just going to bounce from woman to woman. That's a whoremonger. And the woman that doesn't require marriage, even if you did fall, you are betrothed. But during that betrothal, you have to understand the marriage ceremony of Israel. You shall keep my Sabbath and reverence my sanctuary. I am that I am. We're going to stop right here. And if we do those things that are right, we keep the Sabbath day. That is the seventh day from the new moon until the next moon. So every 7 days after the new moon until the next new moon. Easy. And reverence my sanctuary. God doesn't have a sanctuary. The only sanctuary God has is your heart. That sanctuary is up in the area they call Tel Rad, Jebus, the city of David. Bethlehem is not too far from it. It's surrounded by mountains. You're able to see your enemies from a long distance just by being in the city of David because it's on a hill or a mountain, what they call a mountain. And if we do those things that are right before the Most High, we will have peace.